Hello, good evening, and I think we are virtually on the verge of getting out of lockdown, aren't we? So, the first little steps, but we'll keep going. And welcome to the open mic hour. Just wait for the comments to come on. Can't see them as of yet, and hope everybody's all right. What we're going to do is catch up on a little bit from finishing off from last week's lovely interview where we were talking about helping the police and where the mediums have give certain information as well. So hello Claire, hope you're all right. Sophie, hope you're all right. Again, so as I put some bullet points in last week, I just wanted to touch up and polish off obviously what we didn't discuss in the hour the other week when we was talking about mediums within the police world and helping out the psychic information and the mediumship information that they were getting. So fire away with questions as we're coming in. There was 4 or 5 amazing cases that I've seen in America and I've seen in Australia that we didn't actually touch on the other week. And I'm just going to bring some of these to the table and see what your thoughts of it as well. Where are we now? So that's when we was talking to the lovely Karen Kelsall last week. So we're just carrying on the back end of this because I had a few questions myself as well. And, you know, I really enjoyed it that much that I wanted to just finish off the back end of that with reiterating some of these mediums that's helped police over the world and different topics and subjects as well. So there was a medium called Patricia Fauquet, crime solving, and she was a clairvoyant in the USA, and dating back to 2005 to 2011, she actually helped somebody in the Phoenix, Arizona, and helped commit 2 serial crime killers. Basically, one was a violent rapist, and the other was a violent person that actually shot the victims very randomly. So again, I wanted to talk over that and basically what on a little bit about that one specific case. But this gentleman rang the police and tipped them off, and he was dubbed the baseline killer. So the medium had actually phoned the police to say, look, I'm picking up on this information. I've got to give it you. What you do with it is entirely up to you. And they described she could feel that this person had long hair tucked into a cap, and how that they'd fled California, and they predicted he would be arrested in August as well. And this actually came around and about. Police arrested the 2 men, Dale Hassaner and Samuel Detreatment, and they arrested the 2 lads, and they both virtually were put down basically. And it came about, and the police was actually told by the medium where they'd be at this specific time and place as well. And also, I just find that's very fascinating. Hello, Linda. Any questions for anybody? Feel free. So it's just a few things that, obviously, I mean, Rachel's mentioned Doris Stokes there. Again, there's a lot of stuff that, again, it's not held up in the court of law, which we know and we understand. It was just that, you know, the stuff that's told, and sometimes you've got to let people know and authorities know as well, and sometimes you've got to retain stuff. Like I had stuff that was 200 years out from a date I was given, but again, I could see what went on within the crime, so it's hard sometimes as well. And I think that's a little bit of the frustration that we see today, sometimes when the right time and the right place is to give certain information as well. There was another medium, Philly Durant, as well, and on the 4th of September, it doesn't actually give the year, the arrest. There was an arrest of Mark Grudu, and what happened was there was a lady that disappeared, Paula Brown, and she was a bubbly hairdresser in Australia, in Sydney in 1996, and they turned to the medium Durant for help because they couldn't find this missing person. And the medium actually said, focus on the district of downtown, Port Botany, and they found nothing. And what they could do is, I think they actually said, the police couldn't actually find anything the week that they went there, but a week later they actually found this missing person's body as well. So that person was arrested, and it was only 2 kilometres where the medium had said, which I think, if you think of the size of Australia, and it's 2 kilometres within the radius. So again, it's very uncanny, and the police just said it was very accurate, but they turned around and said that they arrested that person, but it was just very uncanny how it all tied in. So even though the medium had given all this information within 2 kilometres of where this missing person's body was, the police were just like, oh yeah, it's uncanny. To me, they don't understand that side of it, of the information, of the visions that they're seeing. All right, see where we're going. Rachel, behave yourself. Also, as well, there was Nancy Meyer, and there was and she was another medium, and she basically said in the USA that a body of Sylvester Tennant in Pennsylvania they failed to find him in 1988. It turned out that they turned to Nancy Myers for help, and they actually channeled the person in, and they called him forward. And Sylvester was 78 and confused and frightened, and he walked off into the woods, and he drew a map. So Nancy Myers actually drew the map of where the body was of this gentleman that was confused and very old. And he gave the map to the police, obviously, and the body was found within 150 yards of the medium writing the information down on the map. Now that, to me, is just mind-blowing information. The body was found, and it was just unbelievable. I think the police were actually basically they were just, mind were blown away. Basically, I've seen a few policemen that can't explain the situation that a medium's putting the information over, and when they receive it, it's like, oh, this is a bit surreal. We don't know how to bracket this and brand it and use what we need to use as well. So, must be so rewarding as mediums, Claire saying, who helps get the right invaluable talent. Again, it's about using it in the right direction and be very respectful of the whole scenario as well. And sometimes you can walk on the land and see things from the 600s, and then your team's telling you about Saxons fighting and battles going on as well. So there's a lot get bombarded as a medium. So you've got to break it down into the century, the decade, and the period of the information. Like where I said I had the information where I could see a burial, a pit with loads of bodies in, and I could see 1919. The next day, my guide said, no, Gary, it's 1819. So it was a 200-year-old pit. So that information wasn't worth going forwards with the police, because it was the day of the times that they would have put people down pits basically and just virtually closed them off, you know. Debbie Malone, a medium. Again, this is relating to Australia. There was a lady there that was a prostitute, and she was Maria Scott, and she disappeared in 2003. And her decomposing body was found dumped in the bushes 7 months later. And she'd been 5 times, and police had suspected what had gone on. And the medium actually said who this was, and it was actually a farm worker who Maria Scott had met in rehab, and they'd moved to Queensland, and he then committed suicide later. The police could not obviously interrogate him, and it was a 4-year difference with all this going on. But basically, the medium had tied the person who'd actually done it, even though that person couldn't live with the guilt and they went on and killed themselves. It was just tying in that the case was closed because of the medium's interaction and the medium's words as well, that they could relate. And the actual body that was found, the medium had not seen the body. The medium would give all the information, and the police tied it in, and she actually told the person that actually done it. And it led to the police exactly right to the cabin where she was killed as well. So she was killed in a cabin, and the knives was lodged. And the medium actually said that the knife, the murder weapon, is down the drain pipe. And then that's where the police found the actual murder weapon as well. And this could only happen if that person was in spirit. So when she was linking into the person that had committed the crime, she claimed that she couldn't have give that information if that other person that committed the crime wasn't in spirit themselves. Again, so that's like a different scenario as well, because the person that they killed were in spirit, and the person that took their own life with the guilt 4 years later, she could connect and link with the energies that's gone on. So again, the police tied up, found the murder weapon as well, exactly where they said it as well. So any questions, folks? And there's a few more little cases as well, and I've got some more bullet points as well to go over as well. Hiya, Shelley. Hope you're all right. Hope everyone's all right. How much lighter does it feel around people as well? I just feel I've got a load more joy around them as well. Dorothy Allison, I've got here. She helped track down a 14-year-old girl who disappeared without trace in New York in 1978. The first vision yielded a vision of a number, and the number that the medium was given was 2562. The girl birthday was the 2nd of the 5th, 1962. So the medium had been given the birth date of the person and oil and letters, NAR. She described the place with 2 sets of church steeples and a pair of chimneys within the vision that she was given. The girl was in the area of a swampland but had not drowned. So obviously they found the body. The girl's father then had turned to the medium for more information. The girl's father began searching the neighborhood until he found the matching location that the medium had described. The letters MAR were written in the rock in large letters. Her daughter's body was found in an oil drum within the watering hole within the area. Alison correctly predicted that the victim had been strangled by her boyfriend, who was later arrested. So when they actually found the body, that's when she knew what had happened to her as well. So the link got stronger as soon as the police had found it. It came to her psychically. Sometimes sadly, psychics can only be more of a hindrance sometimes as well. So they can throw the police off in another direction as well. And this is what's got to be the hard part of being a medium, because we all wouldn't want to do that. And nobody wants to waste police time. But again, you've got to give what you're given, you know. And then in this case, a medium or a psychic was a hindrance in a case. And this was a case in Powys in Wales, central Wales. And the police were actually criticised for wasting £20,000 on the investigation by what this medium had said around the case that hadn't been closed. And what they actually done, this Karloff Asaf in 2009 had actually committed suicide and was found in his flat. They reopened the case because the medium had given more information. The psychic claimed he'd been strangled by gangsters and was forced to take a drink of petrol and bleach. When they actually done another post-mortem again on the body, they found that there was no bleach and there was no petrol involved as well. So that's why it was classed as a hindrance as well. The medium claims that she could see a lion and a horse and the name of a fox as well, and connected. So they searched all these areas of the public houses with them names of lions and foxes as well, connect them with the death. The search led to dozens of pubs, so obviously it ended up in a vast, bigger area. Eventually, a second post-mortem, as I said, revealed that there was no bleach or petrol. So again, they'd opened the case and they'd had to close it again. So on that conclusion, that's actually one that was more of a hindrance. But again, that person's got to give that information as well as how they feel as well at that time. Right, okay, so see where we're up to with any of your questions. And if you watched last week, let me know how that tied in as well with certain things as well. They're questions that I wanted to put basically over to Karen from last week as well, because I just felt it was intriguing of how mediums work around the world as well. Right. Also, running in as we're running into this now, everybody out there, what I want you to all answer me this now, and I want you to type it up back to me. What attracted you to the spirit world? What attracted you to the spirit world? So I need you to interact now. If anyone wants to come online and have a talk, you're more than welcome. I'll try and bring you online as well. What attracted you to work with in the spirit world? Again, myself, I had visions earlier on. So yeah, definitely, Claire. It was like sometimes you can have too much information, so that can throw a bit of a curveball. So again, they've had to run with it, open it up because information has come forward, be it true or not true. It's like that person's only received that. At some point later on, that comes in where if it did tie in, then fine, great. But sometimes you can get information in the wrong direction as well. So it might not have been around that specific case. It might be for a case quite similar that's going to come around and about in a few weeks' time, or a few months' time, or a few years' time. It doesn't mean it's for that specific person as well. So that's where it gets hard to take a step back. Right, Shelley, by seeing your granddad when you was 14, tell me more about that, Shell, as well. How did you feel in and around that, being around the spiritual world? And for a child to see a spirit, I know we don't have much to worry about as a youngster. We don't have to pay the bills and all this, that, and the other. So we are more open to receive. We've got less worries within the world. And we are raw, basically, aren't we? We are of a relaxed, more state of mind, aren't we, as youngsters as well? So again, that's interesting. Janice, these are things that we're picking up on now. So you was born into it. So again, Janice, with that, as any of your family members had the trends, had the traits? Are you drawn to circles? Are you drawn to witchy traits back in the bloodline as well? So what brought people, what attracted you into the spirit world as well? Started with curiosity, Linda says. Always drawn to the spirit world as well, and we can talk spirits all night long as well. So again, I do need a new laptop, I think. Rachel is an amazing one. Rachel witnessed the murder over and over and over and over again every night when I was young. Again, that can be that spirit wants the interaction of your communication. They know you're open to receive, so they keep showing you that same thing and over and over and over again. It's like I always say, it's the Whoopi Goldberg situation. I'll sing a song till I get on your nerves. So that spirit is trying to communicate till it gets on your nerve to take it on board and take note and take heed as well. So again, very clever and canny sometimes, spirits, with that. But again, tell us some more information about that. How did you put that to rest? How did you settle that down? How did you overcome that, Rach? How did you come to terms with that? You know, David West. I'm just going to put that on if I can. And thank you for your interaction. Don't forget, it's your hour. This is why we do all this as well. Right, your hour. Seeing at a young age, experiencing plus the scientific approach to the spiritual world, and love history and watching our idols Nick Groff and Katrina. Also as well, I feel over the last 10 years, the scientific side of it, I think more people are open to the scientific field and side of it now. How can you explain scientifically that a person's high can see something that's not living? You know, so, you know, we must be seeing some type of X-ray or outer dimension vision within your eye or your mind's eye. Again, it's how people are receiving. How does science explain that? How does science just literally explain somebody seeing spirit? because our eyes aren't computed for it. Our eyes shouldn't be doing that. Your mind's eye shouldn't be doing that. You know, when you're open, yes, but the people that don't know the spiritual, they shouldn't be seeing that. I'm going to go back up. Just bear with me. I've got loads more questions to ask you as well, folks. So stay with me, and I do appreciate your interaction. Robin Knutsman says, when you was a little girl about 3 years old, what was that like, Robin? Because my first experience was at 5, and that was daunting. You know, I think my first memory was 5. I remember going to school for the first day. I think that was my first real memory recollection. And then within a month, I was seeing spirit. So now you're a paranormal investigator. Well, that's ace, Robin. That's fantastic. And that's what brings things to the table, is that one specific thing drives us forward for that experience, isn't it, as well? Maureen, good and bad experiences. In a way, is that a learning curve as well? Because you've got to have positive, you've got to have negative. Where there's negative, there's positive, and vice versa. So where your team's shown you different experiences, that again is for you to take on board and work with. So you know what's coming in, you know what's going out, you know what's around you. So you know if it's positive or negative as well. So they're the learning things as well. So we learn as we're developing spiritually as well, working. See what our Shelley's put. Janice, my dad's sister was very sensitive. Okay. And I would suspect, even with your dad, if your dad had the trend and the trait as well, he wouldn't have said much. I asked the question the other day, was why didn't my nan say things when she was here? Because it wasn't talked about. So my nan, in her times and days, loved, I would safely say, the spiritual side of things and working with me. But in the day when she was around, she wouldn't have talked directly to you openly about it. But she must have had the gift, she must have had the trend, and she must have had the traits to talk spiritually as well. So Shelley said he had passed 4 years previously. Saw his face in the top corner of the room. And that must be just like so interactive for people to go, have I just seen that? Have I just seen it? Let's see what Rachel's saying. I've got more questions for you as well, folks. So how did you find the back end of the other people tying in with the investigations as well? I just thought that was mind-blowing of how much we don't know of mediums that are actually out there helping the police. I done one police case that was closed, and I took a family member to the last sighting of a person, and I could feel the impact of being struck on the back of the head. And I was on my knees walking up towards the property. But that strike to the back of the head spiritually is one of the last memories I could virtually link into, because that person would have been seeing stars, that person would have been unconscious or in a semi-mind state as well. So again, you've got to remember any physical impact will have that spiritually when you're picking up and receiving it as well. So you'll get bombarded with that. So it's like, you can imagine that spirit energy at the time would have virtually passed out before the soul's gone, if it was too big of an impact as well. So that's tough sometimes, because you can't carry on with it spiritually then, because that spirit might not remember anything in and around after that situation, but it knows it was last places was there. I was here when it happened, but I can't remember much, because they would have had that impact as well. Right, let's go down. And I'll get on to the next question in a minute. Rachel said it was absolutely terrified as a 5-year-old. Shelley says he wasn't scared. He felt the room full of love and light, basically, and so natural. He was drawn to my live feed. Well, that's a bonus, isn't it? You always get drawn to people spiritually as well, don't you? drawn to the live feed on Facebook, just watch one night. Kelly explained things, how it happened, opened up, it shook you. So you started opening up then as you started watching more spiritual things from a childhood and many things, lots of repetition in dreams. Also as well, what I try and explain to people is when you work spiritually and you start opening up, you can watch a television program and you can actually pick up and connect with energies and spirits from the location of the building as well. So it's not about bringing them forward and bringing them energies and entities in your front room. You can actually make a link and a connection just by watching something on telly. So even if a set is on, I don't know, saying Irregulars, and you're watching an old Victorian London Times, it's not about the set that they're filming it from. You actually can link in with connections in and around. So, where have I gone? Where have I gone? Stay with me. Jessica, young age experience and literally being open up and sensitive a lot more as well lately. Gotta go, Shelley says. Shelley, you're always going. Stop it. Great show and share. Thank you, Maureen. Yes, definitely. Thank you for joining again. You got very sick and you seen yourself lying in your bed. Now, I've had this experience. I was 19, just trying to think of the year. Just bear with me. I think 1976. I had salmonella food poisoning. I had a high temperature for 2 weeks. They thought I had waiting on an appendix to rupture. I actually had food poisoning for 2 weeks, so delirium and all that. I went into hospital after the 2 weeks, second opinion. I was virtually on death's door, lifeless, as good as lifeless can get, and eventually come round. But I remember coming round in the hospital, and it was the hospital I was born in, and I spiritually think I felt like 50, 60 energies in the room. And I woke up and it was just like, I woke up to like hundreds of fans keeping my temperature down. But when the fans were there, it virtually had every fan in the hospital in that room to keep my temperature down. And when I woke up, I felt like they were spirits, not the actual fans. I just felt the energies were packed with saying, come on, Gary, it's not your time. Come on, Gary, it's not your time. And again, from that, I feel that I've helped develop that spiritual sensitivity. And again, a lot is heightened from that by having that near-death experience. So that was quite hard and really, really bizarre to go through and experience that near-death experience. All right, now, this is one of my questions for later on, this one, but I will touch on it quickly. Maureen, you had an out-of-body experience and it petrified you. Welcome to my world. We'll touch back on that again in a minute. So has anybody else had out-of-body experiences, or you had the sleep paralysis? Have anybody experienced that? Right, Lauren, why don't you help with finding Maddie? If you watched the show last week, we actually didn't comment on this because it's actually personal. It's actually open. All right, I've not received anything spiritually to give to add on to that. So it's not for me. It's not for me to say. If I haven't got anything, I can't give it. All right, so as touch sensitive as it is, that is as simple as it is, Laura. All right, so again, spirits have a very intelligent way of working. All right, and I'm sure there must have been people that give information. That's what the current situation is. That's all I can say on that. Okay, but again, appreciate your question. Froze a little bit, yeah. Janice had an out-of-body experience. Please explain more about your out-of-body experiences. You missed the start of it. You're okay. You can catch up as well later. What I started to touch on was from Karen Kelsol's show last week, where we had the interview about psychic mediums and spiritual mediums helping police with information. I had about 5 or 6 little cases that just blew my mind away with how things had tied in as well. So just see where we're going there now. Others had tried, famously said they couldn't help. Maybe she's alive, then thanks, you're welcome, no problem. As I always say, as I try and be as professional as possible, there's a right time and there's a right place. All right. And again, it's like somebody touched on murders from the 60s. Sometimes you need that time period of case sensitivity to be 100 years, and then that information will come forward. Sometimes a touch case sensitive, which is close to the heart of everybody within the nation, you've got to respect that there's a right time and the right place. So in 100 years' time, is it okay to talk about that? Then there's a time and a place. And again, it might be another 10 years' time. It might be another 15 years' time. Nobody's got the answer. If I certainly got information, I would talk to other mediums first as well and see what their thoughts was on it as well, and then obviously proceed from there forward. So I always say never. But then again, sleep paralysis. And again, the situation is spiritually, she might not be linking in if she's still present as well. So that makes, hopefully that's the case scenario. Not sleep paralysis, but dreams seem very real sometimes and feel like your future combo with someone. So you can have the conversation before you're going to bump into somebody the next day, and that comes about as well. Yes, we had, I think, the lovely Jolene interviewed Sally, and she was an amazing medium, and it was nice to learn and listen to other mediums as well. So we have covered Sally. So if you want to go on YouTube and catch up on the interview that we done with the lovely Sally Morgan and Jolene did, that was interesting. So catch up with Keep on Chatting, have a little look on YouTube and search that as well. But I do recommend you listen, you watch that hour interview, and it was a lot of insight, good stuff as well. And it's amazing how other people work. Janice. I used to have a lot of problems with your husband at the time. And you was told, and you knew yes or no with things of what was going on. I had a certain situation in my life, and it was like my guide and the team were telling me, don't do this, don't do that, sit back, it'll all work out in your favor. Again, I've had scenarios with that as well. And let's see what you got there. And you have crazy dreams, Laura. And you agree with that, Robin. Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for answering. You're welcome. If you don't ask the questions, it's your hour, and this is what we'll do. We'll try and cover topics and dreams and everything else and the subjects of what's going on. I mean, there was a case where we could virtually see what happened to the person, and just by saying one thing last week, somebody said, I knew the person that he was talking about, because they knew the specifics of what was being explained as well. But when you're seeing that 3 years before they find that person's missing body, it's hard. It is very, very hard. Do you know what I mean? But it's a privilege to receive information and hopefully put that person to peace and at rest as well. So hopefully, yeah, I recommend you, Laura, you watch the YouTube with Sally Morgan and Jolene on Keep on Chatting. Go onto YouTube and watch that interview. It was a lovely interview as well. Right, Rach, where are you now? Your encounters. You see, I think you're getting stronger and stronger and stronger, Rach, but I don't think you realise it. I think you do, but I don't think you give yourself enough credit. Did you ever have this strange spiritual encounter? I messaged you first. It takes to a team of the living and depart, help solve the problem. It's people are drawn in and around you for certain reasons. So that can be the link as well. So sometimes there's a link and a connection with that, Rach, as well. And it's a mad how spirits put things together as well. So it really is. There's always, I would say, there's method in the madness, and the spiritual world will tie and link in what they need to tie and link in with the information. Excellent. Glad you'll watch that as well. And if you go onto YouTube and watch some of the people that we've interviewed since all the experiences and people that experience things over the world, and some of the people that we've just come across, and there's amazing people out there that's on YouTube to catch up that we've put on the platform. Sally is brilliant. I've followed her for a long time. And again, it's like a lot of people keep themselves private within the world of what they do. A lot of mediums take themselves, they do their own platforms, and they just keep themselves to themselves because they don't need the following. They don't need, because they're working day in, day out. Right, I've got some more questions for you now, so I'd like you to interact. All right, okay. Yes, you do something happened to you last year, health-wise, and you lots of vivid, mad dreams since. Again, it can build from that, and then you'll receive more. So if you say, thank you for that, can you give me some more information away from that as well? It could add on to it. And this is how the spiritual world and the energies around you, your family members and your team, help you get to where you need to be as well. But it all ties in at some point. So what it ties in with is your specific information that you need. Like a year last October, we knew something was coming along. Didn't know what it was, knew it was big. Didn't know it was as big as the last 12 months we were going through, but spiritually we knew something was coming along that we had to deal with, but we didn't know what it was. But we knew it was big. Just, you know, it is mind-blowing sometimes. Jessica, you're saying to the girls yesterday, Gary, I did meditation last night. Move down to one side, open your eyes and nothing there. Again, that could be a presence that's in and around. That might be an experience that you might need to experience moving forward over the next few weeks. That might come around to you in a few weeks' time when you go on your next investigation. You will link and click onto that of the scenario that's going on. So your team are giving you stuff. It might be a prior link that's going to happen ahead. Try the meditation again and ask them to clarify. So try the same meditation again and ask for some clarification around it. You saw yourself living on the bed, yeah. And again, some people can have that outer body experience and they're going through that life scenario, but when they look back down, it's like that link and the connection of the astral projection is like you're not going yet, but you're still having the outer body experience in. Right. I don't know what that one's about. Have faith. Right, Lauren. Right, next question is like, why do people want to try it and why do people want to work in and around the paranormal? I think we tapped onto that a little bit of like that buzz and that connection around the spiritual world as well. What intrigues us of that, like I've seen some photographs that I've captured and shared, and it's like when I see it back, it's like, yeah, that was an amazing night. That brings the people. You've been back there 5 or 6 times. Is there a place that you go back to all the time that you just want more information from that place or that person that came through and connected? Why do you get into the paranormal, basically? You followed Julie's Angels. She's fantastic. 2, she did a live on here, which got me to know about this page. That's excellent. That's fantastic. Again, it's sharing everybody's experiences. And what my idea of this page was for people to come in and interact and share your experiences as well. Anyone's more than welcome on the screen. Again, it's like we never stop learning. So in 40 years' time, if I'm still doing this, I want to learn about everybody else's experiencing, because if I have a scenario that's quite similar, to think, oh, I remember that years ago, somebody has gone through that and experienced that. Everything has a reason and a connection to work out what's going on around there within the spiritual realm as well. Yes, you love talking to spirits with your equipment. It's awesome. What's your favourite equipment then, Robin? What do you enjoy? What interacts with you? Do you like your EVPs? Do you like your, a lot of people say now everyone dived on the SLSs. People saying don't use the SLSs. I've seen some amazing stuff on the SLSs, and I've seen spirits where you've asked them to put their hand on somebody's shoulder, and next minute I've seen interaction with the SLS, and there's an energy putting, getting mapped out, and they're putting a hand on somebody's shoulder. So I've seen some good interaction with the energies like that. I think that's been nice to see. It's nice to see, isn't it? You know what I mean? Tell me about the equipment anyway. I do like the EVP. When you go back, I'll leave my recorder on for 2 hours, and I've got that much stuff on it. It's hard to decipher it all, but sometimes when you've got a spare hour or two, just click it on, and it's amazing what you can hear or what you didn't hear on the investigation. Might just be you, wishful thinking. You feel the worst will be over, the critical pandemic in the 12 months. Yeah. Connect with your loved ones. It's with Manan. The actual vision, the first vision of Manan in spirit was actually at the base of my bed, and the bed went in and concave down, or concave, but the actual bed went down. I was like, wow. Did you know what I mean? It wasn't actually seeing Manan, but I seen the energy sitting down on the bed. And when you're actually in bed and that's happening, it's like, what's going on here? So you ask a few questions, and then you get some confirmation, and yes, it's me. And it's just amazing. Find it all very interesting. Your spirit box and the recorder. I think there's certain spirit boxes there that I like, that take the background noises out, that take the hissing noise out. I think there's a lot more clarity sometimes. And the best evidence I've ever had on the EVP was at Drakelow, where I could hear running and being a fight, and you could hear the gunshots actually on the EVP itself. And that was just like, wow, that was just amazing. Yeah, we've done the readings. The last hour was the readings, my dear. That's right. This is my 3rd hour on the live tonight. SP7. Yeah, I think that a lot of clarity comes with that, with the mobile speakers. I believe the mobile speakers help these days with the actual quality of the sound that's coming through on the equipment as well. Yeah, we've done readings before, Sharon. Okay. Jessica, you joined the paranormal team because there are so many untold stories in different places, voices not heard correctly, the humans just like us being able to connect with their physical life is amazing. You love to connect, and one day it will happen. And like, so now it's like, if we pass over eventually, would we go and communicate with spirit? Would we go and communicate with humans? Would we go and communicate, or as people say, would you go and haunt here? Would you go and haunt that person? That's quite bizarre, because I don't think anyone's really got the answer till you go over to the other side of the other realm. When you're over the other side of the other realm, then I find with the communication of people that are not believers, when they go over to the other realm and they see what it's about, they have a different opinion of the spiritual world. They have a different opinion, and it opens their eyes sometimes. Some of the communication of spirits I've had where people don't like all this, but when they go to the spirit world and I connect with them, it's like, oh my God, am I really doing this? I'm connecting with you. You can see me, you can hear me. So I think until we're actually anybody's over there, you couldn't really say, because sometimes some people might be quiet and like, yeah, I'll just watch everyone's going on and watch my friends, family, and loved ones. And at the end of the day, you might want to interact. Who knows? That I don't think many people have thought about that in the future. But hopefully, that's a long, long time away as well. We've talked a little bit about out-of-body experiences. What's your interaction with spirits? What opened your eyes with the interaction that you've had with spirits? You've all said about the equipment. What's been amazing, the interaction that you've had? The one I said before was, I was describing a spirit. My friend in the dark drew the spirit, but the psychic artist. And then somebody took a picture, and the person that I was describing and the person that was being drawn in the dark was actually the same person that was caught on the camera. That is mind-blowing, because you've got 3 different types of evidence that all tie in at once, and it's all the same person. You can't buy that. That's just like 10 out of 10. So somebody describing it spiritually, the person, somebody drawing the person in the dark, and then somebody photographing that person, and it's the person that's been drawn in the dark as well. It's the same scenario as the medium explaining who they're picking up on spiritually. That's mind-blowing. A lot of people as well work with their other senses, the 6 senses as well. A lot of people, if they've got sight impairments, they get higher senses of smells and stuff like that as well. A lot of people work with pressures in the room if an atmosphere is changing as well. A lot of people work like that. Oh, right. Loris, get some spells, feeling, experience presence in the corner, eyes and shadows, and that is spot on. You know, if there's an energy in a room and it's not quite a nice feeling, you think that's a bit weighted. And a lot of people smell sulfur around the lower energy. A lot of people around people I would explain as skullduggery, and a lot of hefty-handed people, I feel that they bring a little bit of a stagnant smell. Like they just seem to have their own little environmental smell sometimes around the experiences of what spirit energies are bringing to the table as well. So what interaction have you had with spirit? We've got about another 10 minutes left, folks. But definitely the corner of the eye. I've had quite a few of that the last couple of days, more and more the last couple of days as well. Plenty of smells in the presence of the corner of the eye. I've got that one. I did click on the next question there. Okay, sweetie, you have to go for now, but thanks very much. Enjoyed it. You're welcome, Robin. Please tune in. Please go over the stuff on YouTube as well, on the Keep On Chatting platform. You see some amazing stuff and interviews and that as well. What got you interested is the old stories and Pearson putting them together via spirits. And thank you for joining in tonight as well, folks. Let's see what this says. Gary, have you had communication from a spirit who was a medium when living? I went to see 2 amazing mediums work on stage, and the guide said one of them's not well, but they didn't say which one. And within a couple of months, that person had passed. So when you're in the link and the power, your team won't give you all the information sometimes, because some things have to run its path, some things has to run its course. I've had medium that's come to me and apologised for a certain situation when they went over spiritually. They've come and made peace, which is nice, and say I'm around still. And again, it's like not about me. It's about that takes some doing realistically for somebody that's maybe you've not got well with or connected with for whatever reason or another. Nothing personal, but when they've crossed over and passed, that they've come to me spiritually and acknowledged and said, we're still okay, you're all right. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, I'm okay, I've got no problem. So again, it's nice to be open and still receiving. So when you're receiving, it's nice to be acknowledged that there's communication there, and you put your differences apart, even though it wasn't from my side of it. But again, it's the way it is sometimes on this plane. Everyone might not get on with each other, but to get somebody spiritually that's come through, it's been quite famous, and they've apologised, it's like, no, that's fine, that's no problem. Pleasure working with you. You know, it is a pleasure. Rachel smells aroma when she hears a loud humming before the voices start. Do you know what I feel that is? When you hear from your ear on this plane as a human, spiritually, it's like a different brand and a different corridor, Rach. So before you hear the humming, I feel it's starting to vibrate into the different corridor that you are linking in and working with. So hopefully that helps you understand that. Yes, 'tis nice making peace as well. Another question as well. Somebody said spirits might not know that they've passed. Now, sometimes they can be lingering on if they've been taken too quickly. And I always try and explain if somebody's had a motorbike accident or a car crash or met with a quick sudden death, that it can take time for their spirit energy to work out where they are. Sometimes their soul will live on, and sometimes that their spirit energy will have to work out where they are within the plane, within the realm. And sometimes they've got to work out how to connect and link as well. So again, it can take a lot of adjustment for spirit. So if somebody came to me for a reading and they've passed quite quickly or recently, I will say, come back when you're ready, basically, because sometimes it's too quick, too soon. And that's just being openly. Yeah, you can bring that spirit energy forward and link and connect, but you've got to be fair and understand and respect the spirit back and the energy back, and say to them, you need spiritually to work out where you're up to, and then come back and see me, and then I will express that to that person that's come for a reading. So again, it's not about just taking somebody's money and just saying what, I can call them forward. That spirit energy's got to want to come forward and work and blend out where they are within the universe, and work out and understand of what's actually happened to them, and why aren't they within a body now? Why aren't they where they are now? They've got to work out why they are and where they are. So again, it takes time to materialize, is a very good word, or manifestate as well. So it takes time to blend. Yeah, we can link in and connect, but sometimes some people haven't grieved as well. And again, it can be too overpowering with the words that they've got to say. Do you know what I mean? I've had people that's been taken, and I've got messages for their family, loved ones, but they've not coming forward in front of me. So I can't give that information. That's where it gets very frustrating, when spirits know that something's happened to them, but I can't pass that message on to their family members. That's when it gets very frustrating as well. But again, you put it in a corridor, you log it, you clock it, you store it. If the time's right, it comes around and about. Just going to read this, Laura. Just waiting, my laptop's taking time to load up. All right, so your comment will come on now. You'd love to tune in, but think you'd be too scared, feeling loved ones getting their smells, a nice reading, but thanks, scared to see or hear. Again, you can ask your team to give you one of your heightened senses. So if you're auntie or your uncle wore a certain aftershave or a certain perfume, you could say, Aunt Betty, if you're around, and you knew she wore that fragrance, say, Aunt Betty, if you're around, give me your fragrance smell. And then you will get that whiff and the sensitivity of it. So you'll feel more uplifted that you know your family members around that you really bonded with and you grew up with, and you know, some aunties are like mothers, aren't they? And but you know, all your friends, family, and loved ones. So if there's things that you can remember around them that you know that that's related to them, you can ask your team to say in your mind to your spiritual team, if Joe Bloggs or aunties around, give me their sensuous smell that they had, and you'll be surprised. You know, sometimes we get a lot of pipe smoke, and the older generation would have been a lot of pipe smokers and stuff like that. But you know, it was like Great Uncle Albert or whatever. But you knew it was the older generation. You know, so ask your team what works best for you without being too scared, and you can explain that in your mind to your spiritual team, and they will hopefully work with that with you, because that's what they're there for. Excuse me. So what works best for you, your spiritual team will be happy with, yeah, because they will get more information and they'll work with you more, and that's what they're there for. Rachel, spend some time working with your spiritual team, and you can control what you experience and how it happens. Take a lot of practice, but it's possible. It certainly is possible. The amount that my team's helped me with moving forward over the last 15 years, I can't explain. It's just been, I'm just amazed. I just love every second of it. How do you feel sometimes, folks, that do you feel if you've moved into a property that you've got to explain yourself when you've moved in, who you are, that energy or entity might not like kids or that family member, or when you move into a place or a property, I feel it's a blending time that the spirits have got to work out why you're in that building. If that was their home or property or whatever, it's the compromising. So you've got to have a compromising thing with the spirit energies out there as well, and put your thoughts out there and say, you know, this is our new home. I believe you lived here, and not here to wish you any harm. We're just here to progress, and it's a short space of time that you're in that house, 5, 10, 15, 20 years time. So use your intelligence to connect with spirit and explain stuff as well. And you'll be amazed how it links in backwards for you as well. So we are coming up to the hour now. And again, thanks for the loads of questions and your interactions. This is what it's about. Somebody said to me today, and I asked for a few bullet points off them, and they said, how do you keep sad news to yourself? Like, so if spirits say to me that that might happen to that person on their road ahead or on their path, or give them a nudge in the right direction. With the sad news, it's like, what usually happens with me is I will see someone, and then a couple of weeks later, I know they've passed without knowing they've passed, or I've not been told they've passed. It's like the Sixth Sense scenario where I had 5 or 6 people, time stood still for a millisecond, and within a couple of weeks, they've crossed and they've passed and they've gone over. And it's like, what's all that about? So it's like sliding doors scenario. It's like sometimes you know what's coming, but you can't say that to that person. You can't give that person that information. And again, it's very powerful. It is very, very powerful thing to deal with. But again, it's all about being professional. It's all about life's life. We know the expectations. You come into this world, you go out of this world. It's not for me to say that that certain scenario is going to happen. So sad news about a loved one, and it's like, you know, a loved one might only have a couple more years, but enjoy the time and experience around that plane, around what they're on this earth for, is to be happy. It's not about hearing sad news. It's not about giving somebody sad news. It's about giving them all the little positive things that gives them the quality of life to enjoy the next 2 years. If somebody said, Gary, they will be on the other side within a year or two, it's not a short space of time, but they can fill so much in their life within a year or two. If a medium went up to somebody and said, oh, you're going to pop your clogs in a year or two, imagine the stress and the strain of that person trying to cram everything in for a year or two. So things have got to run its course. And as a medium, when things run its course, that is the professional way that it needs to do. And it's just that person will be at peace with living their life, how they live their life. They've got to live the life, how they live the life. And I'm a big believer as well with the soul. What you don't learn in this present moment in life, you learn as you move forward, as your soul lives on again. So again, to me, your soul does live on. When it doesn't want to live on and it's learnt everything, that's when it just evaporates within the universe as well. David says he's still learning meditation. Do you know what? I can't remember the last time I meditated. I think it must have been round about November, possibly with our Linda at some point. It might have been January, but a 10-minute meditation, balancing and cleansing, seems to do me for like 2 or 3 months. So balancing and cleansing just seems to help me run through the quarters of the calendar. So if I balance and cleanse for 10 minutes, it seems to do me 3 months. So Dave's learning as through the meditations. It's still tricky, yeah. But what comes to you in and around the meditation as well. I've had some amazing meditations. Used to be scared of mirrors. Mirrors are a doorway, I do believe, and I believe that doorway can bring a lot forward as well. Again, it's around having the right balance with mirrors. I wouldn't do the mirrors on your own. I'd always have a friend in and around, because you can go in a trance mind state as well if people scry or an energy comes forward, and it can be overpowering either via the mirror or from behind you in and around the room. So again, sometimes it can be overpowering as well. And sometimes, here's another question: why do spirits stay? Why do that same spirit stay and vacate that building? Why do spirits stay in a certain room, or like so where we go, the ancient Ramin? Why is there certain specific energy in that room? Yeah, that was their place, but why stay there? I'd be off on my travels here, there, and everywhere. And I am a believer that milliseconds, if a person on this plane thinks about Joe Bloggs or a family member, they're in Italy, and somebody in England thinks that person, that millisecond, that spirit energy can link and connect with both just like that. And a lot of people don't see that, but it's in the thought, the power of thought that's out there can be picked on quite spiritually with the connection within milliseconds. And we've all had that scenario where you have a relative that lives abroad. I was thinking of Joe Bloggs. Oh yeah, they've not been well, or they've had a trip or a fall, and they're on the other end of the globe, but you've had the phone conversation or the Skype or whatever, and the same person, I've had that dream, I've had this, I've had that, and it ties in and connect, but they're 12,000 miles away from each other. Again, so there's scenarios like that. Right, meditation, scared of mirrors. You hate mirrors. Rachel, I'm going to get you not to be scared of mirrors. You know I'm going to do it, don't you? I'm going to get you not scared of mirrors. All right. When I get new mirrors in, I've got 2 new mirrors in the house. I've got rid of all the old ones, and I basically seal them off, and I unopen them when I need to work. All right. So I can use a lot of Reiki energy around the mirror to close it off, and when I want to work in a mirror, I'll use it to open it up as well. So you can chokerate mirrors up to seal them as well. And many, many, many moons ago, prior to all this, I actually slept with a mirror next to me. And I know it sounds bizarre, but I knew there was something about mirrors. But I tested that theory of what's in the mirror. So many, many years ago, I just stared at this mirror for ages. I think I fell asleep looking at this mirror, and I want to know more about mirrors. And that might have been 20 years ago. So bizarre situation, but 10 years later, I'm scrying through mirrors. So that's what that would have been about, but I wouldn't have known what it was about at the time. David's still learning. You viewed the house about 12 years ago. You could not. Oh, it's gone off. Claire said she could not move in because as soon as she walked in, she could see myself falling down the stairs. You get them bad vibes as well, but what you might have picked up on there is, Claire, is some of these spirit energies actually fell down the stairs and you're sensing and picking up on that if you've not known that you've been able to receive. So it might have been that scenario, but because your mind itself puts that thought of, I'm not moving in here, that's me falling down the stairs. But realistically, that could be a spirit energy that fell down the stairs in the past as a person. Rachel says about a new home. David, with meditation and falling asleep, any meditation that you do, and if you fall asleep after 20 minutes in a meditation and you're doing a 50-minute meditation, you will still retain the 30 minutes of meditation subconsciously. And that will come to you as and when. So you might see the rest of that 30-minute or what you needed to learn from that 30-minute 4 weeks down the line, 3 weeks down the line. Again, you will retain that information even though you are subconsciously asleep. So don't worry about falling asleep in meditation. That is a question I get asked a lot. A bit like a film for others, two families in two time zones. And sometimes where you have a new build house, when a new house has been built, it can take years for the land to settle. When the land's unsettled, a lot of spirits come out to play because it's the unearthing of the earth. So it's the churning of the earth. It's a lot going on spiritually around the land as well. Any more questions before we call it a night, folks? Need a group chat? Yeah, certainly do. David, looking forward to the first investigation. Shepton Mallet as our team. Yeah, definitely. And again, any more questions before we go? I think we've covered quite enough tonight. I think we're done. Yes, Rachel, mirrors. I'm going to get you to work in a mirror. I'm going to get you to overcome your fears. I think you'll see another witch come through, actually, is what they're telling me. I think you'll see the real you from past lives. I think that's why you're scared. No problem, Claire. Been a nice catch up. Piss card lunch. Never heard of that. Lost. Right. Any more questions? Please log on. Log it down. So as well, if you Google psychics and mediums working with the police, I think it comes out like the top 10. So if you want to reread the cases that I talked about at the start of the night, just Google psychics and mediums working with the police. It comes out with the top 10 list of findings, and a little bit like the X-Files and a little bit about unsolved mysteries and stuff like that. But when I actually read it, I was like, it was jaw-dropping. I was like, wow, how amazing is that information? To spiritually write something down as a map of where that person's resting and can be at peace. And it's just like they can have their resting place at the right, correct place. But just to have the family settled and at peace is just amazing. So, right, thank you. Thank you for joining in. Very interesting. Again, try and cover as much. Please inbox me. Please, please, please give me topics, subject. It's not about you know, I talk for England, but topics and subjects that you'd like to discuss, it's your open hour. It's your things. You might have seen something go on a week and it's really bugged you. You might have seen something on the telly and thought, hang on, how's that working paranormal? I've never seen anything. I've never picked up on anything like that. I see a lot of stuff on the photographs and a lot of people sharing stuff as well. And I always say it's nice to be there to experience it. So keep doing what you do. Yeah, there's been some amazing cases out there, Janice. Again, thanks for everybody for your interaction. Again, oh, do you like my new mask as well? New mask. So, again, thanks for tuning in the Open Mic Hour, and I'll try and get some guests for the GF Uncensored Hours for Mondays. And again, thanks for everyone that's tuned in for the readings earlier on the last hour. Again, go onto YouTube, check some of the amazing Keep On Chatting on YouTube. It's just some amazing hours show. So if anyone's got any hours to kill or a spare time on their hands, go back onto YouTube and have a little look at some of the stuff that we've talked over in topics and subjects. Right, folks, stay safe, stay strong. Thank you, David. Loads of love and white light to everybody out there, and looking forward to catching up with everybody as well. So I'm going to try and end the broadcast. The laptop is playing up. So good night. Keep paranormaling out there, folks. Thank you, Rachel. Stay safe.